give that boat.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno.
And good morning, everybody. 11:45 here on the West Coast. I guess the NBA schedule makers figured that the Kings fan base, the Kings, would not want to wait to get their 7th in a row. They're taking on Chicago today. Weird start time, but oddly, I feel okay about it because it's on the East Coast. By the way, just updated, De'Aaron Fox not on the injury report. Looks like Foxy's gonna be a go. So we'll talk about that on the other side. A lot of football going. If you have not been paying attention to the Kings as of late, we're gonna run down some of the different statistical categories that they are leading in over the last 6 games. It is crazy. The tale of 2 seasons within the first 41 of the year. Nuts. But if you've not been paying attention, this is what's been going on lately.
Duh. Winning.
All right, we got the pregame for you. We'll keep you updated on the NFL scores. We know that's going on as well. As Buffalo gonna choke again. Who knows? Thanks for being here. We get it started on the other side. It's the pregame show here on If You Don't Like That.
Grant and Ryan, break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the time to get Williams to D-line. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Kings Court Studios. Ryan in Sacktown getting you ready for the Kings and the Bulls. The Kings favored by 5.5 in this one. So do me a favor. Ignore the fact that De'Aaron Fox's name is on this report. And I'm going to point out one other discrepancy that is massive. It's huge for the Kings today. See the name right there at the bottom of that injury report for the Bulls? Coby White, he's out. That is huge for the Kings. Coby White is a freaking stud. Coby makes that offense go at times. You still got to deal with Zach LaVine. Yeah, they got a little bit of size inside. But the fact that there is no Coby White, that is big, big for the Kings in this one. And screw you, national media. If the Kings run off their 7th in a row today and Coby didn't play, it ain't the reason for it. I mean, certainly it helps, but it ain't the reason. Something has changed. I am a believer now. Something is different with this team, and now you're going to be integrating De'Aaron Fox into this today. Let's see how it's going to work out. Not like De'Aaron's been gone for 6 months. It's been a few games. He was part of this winning streak. Then he got injured against Memphis, a very nasty fall. But we talked about it. And by the way, thank you, everybody, for all the love on the postgame show. Last show, the Celtics game, I'm with Grant. I went back and watched it again. That final period that the Kings played, just gorgeous. Gorgeous basketball. There is a belief within that team. Doug Christie, we're going to hear from him here in a little bit, but he went to go tell Keon Ellis that he's going to keep Devin Carter in, and Keon beat him to the punch. Keon said, let the kid keep going. So something's different here. I really like it. Now, I want to see if what's different remains the same when this team faces some adversity, because they will face some adversity. This is only game 39 on the schedule, although I can't believe we are almost to the halfway point in the season. But take a look, y'all. The Kings, number 9 right now in the Western Conference. How's that look? Incredible. By the way, so here's some stats over the last 6 games. During this winning streak, the Kings are leading the NBA in net rating, 12.2. Defensive rating, they are also number 1. No surprise there that went up after they held the Celtics to 97. Defensive rebound percentage, also first in the NBA. Overall rebound percentage, also first in the NBA. You kidding me? Offensive rating, 7th in the NBA over this 6-game span, and you do it against the world champions at full strength. This is the real test, though, today. Can you get up for an early game? Can you create your own energy? Can you play the same almost desperate style that we don't care who the hell's in front of us? We're going to do what we're going to do. Can that continue? And another thing with De'Aaron Fox coming in, I said it on the post-game show, and I really stand by this now that I watched that game back, because DeMar DeRozan struggled last game, 9 of 26. As we bring you back in here, 9 of 26, and I know he hit some big shots, no doubt about that, but he struggled against the Celtics, and that slowed things down to a degree. It did. So I'm going to stand by what I said on the post-game show. De'Aaron Fox's game needs to fit to what these guys are doing. These guys and what they're doing, they don't need to fit what they're doing to what De'Aaron Fox is going to do. So we'll see how Doug Christie implements that. Also, it's not just about the minutes, it's about the combinations. So how is Doug going to get some of those same combinations the same run at times? I mean, let's hope this is a blowout. Let's hope that Doug's able to play everybody on the team today. Probably won't be. The Bulls 18-20 on the season, 8-11 at home. Zach LaVine's the guy that you kind of have to worry about in this one. He's had some big games as of late. He had a big game against the New York Knicks. So although the Bulls are under 500, they are still in the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, and they're not chopped liver. They could easily win this game today, but you hope that Sacramento does not have a letdown. By the way, we're brought to you by Bennett's Westside Grill. Maybe you're there having brunch right now. If you are, you want to trade places, come do this for me, and I'll come eat and drink what you're having right now. But go check them out, bennettsrestaurants.com. We'll talk more about them here in a little bit. Let's get to all of you in the chat as we get you ready for the Kings and the Bulls. By the way, we're here all day for you. We'll keep you in the loop of playoff football, what's going on. Buffalo trying to squeak this one out against the Broncos. Broncos continuing to play good football as well. But let's get to the chat. Let's start from the top, see what everybody's doing. Thanks for showing up on an early game day. I've got my oat milk and brown sugar, I guess, shaken espresso right here, homemade. So I'm fueling up. What are you guys doing? You already on to lunch? What is it? Let's see. Hey, Jesus Christ, my King. Well, can we make it 7 games in a row? We'll see. That's a big question. What's up? Furious first in the chat. Much love to Ryno, Grant, and Jerry. Appreciate that. And it is much back at all of you with the chat. I was in Stockton last night checking out the Stockton Kings. Played the South Bay Lakers. No Bronny in that one, but Bronny wasn't what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Terry Taylor. I really like this kid's game. I really like Terry Taylor's game. We'll talk about Stockton when we have a few minutes. By the way, since Jesus Christ, my King brought it up, halftime, Jerry Reynolds. He'll be joining me. No Grant at halftime. It'll just be Jerry and I. And then the post-game show later today. We'll see if we're talking about 7 in a row. I hope we are. So make sure you come back. We will be taking all of your calls. That shows about you. And again, we had over 7,000 people that have caught the replay of that. So we appreciate everybody. Yep, we talked about that. Fox is available. Again, no need to really rush him in to things. Quite frankly, I'm a little surprised based off of what I was seeing and kind of hearing. So the less minutes, maybe the better today for De'Aaron. I think you're definitely in a spot where you can take a little bit more of a cautious approach because of the way the team's playing. But what's he going to do, Doug Christie, going to do about the starting lineup? I have not checked. That's probably dropping any second. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you see it before I do it or put it in the chat. Stop Levine, win easy. Not that. I mean, it's not that simple. The fact that Kobe White's not playing, that's massive. I was more worried about Kobe White than I was Levine, but Levine is streaky as hell. And we're continuing to see this Kings team. The stat to me, besides Domantas Sabonis's massive game against Boston. Speaking of that, why don't we take a look at last game's numbers? We can check those out, and then we'll look at the Bulls in their last game. They blew out Washington. But the stat that stuck out to me last game was the fact that the Kings only gave up 41 three-point attempts to the Celtics. That's their bread and butter. That's how they win games. They shoot the most in the league at 50. The Kings only gave up 41, and that number, that three-point attempt number, is starting to plummet, which is massive. You've got to think that is a huge reason that this team not just won in Boston, but they've won the last 6, the 5 before it. Andrew, what's up, man? Let's go. Like the page. Yes, please give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. We would really appreciate it. MC, my man. MC shooting me DMs during the post-game show. Last one about the DeMar DeRozan film cut of Doug Christie. By the way, let's listen to a little bit of Doug Christie last game.
First of all, just like it's not a lot, man. It's super proud of the competition level. That is a world championship, first-class team. Joe has them playing at such a high level. For us to just string together 48 minutes of solid basketball, it all goes to the players. Those guys are absolute rock stars. They went out, they had a game plan, they executed it, they knew that they would make runs, make shots, and they didn't put their heads down. They stayed to it. So from me to them, I told them I love you guys and appreciate your focus and intensity.
You guys withstood a run from them in the second quarter, and then you were able to go on a run of your own to start the fourth. What was your messaging to them in those moments, and what stood out to you about those runs?
You know, more than anything, like, we know that this team is a special team that we're playing against. Like, they're going to make runs, but stay pat, rebound the basketball, and then we got to stay running. This isn't winning time yet, is what I say. Winning time comes later. So we want to step on the gas. We want to keep going. And they did that.
And you've obviously worked very closely with Sabonis for a while. For him to have a career high 28 rebounds. Wow. I mean, he rebounds a lot.
Yeah.
But for him to have a career high in a game like this, what stood out about his performance?
Just his intensity and his focus. Like, if he didn't know it, he's looking at me. I'm like, whatever the coverage is, he's locked in. And then, like, we have stopped chatting to the referees the way that they're taking on what I would like. Like, let me deal with the referees. We'll get some calls. We won't. It's just part of the game. And he got hit a couple times, didn't say a word, just kept fighting. And I love him for that.
And Devin,
isn't that a big piece? I think that is a massive piece. And I look for that today to also include De'Aaron Fox. Got to drop the chatter with the refs. Got to drop it. Doug's proved in his tenure over his 7 games as head coach that he is kind of handling that for them. And I like what Jay Crowder's doing with the rookies, introducing them to the officials, et cetera, et cetera. You're looking at the Bulls season stats, by the way. So yeah, you can't let your focus, this team's not good enough to let this focus redirect to the refs. It will handle itself with your play. And one consistent thing about this team over this 6-game winning streak has been coming out and letting the other team feel you first. You are setting the terms of engagement. And I think that's big. Tim, Fox, I'm not worried about if he meshes. I'm worried about the style. I don't want it to slow down. That's what I'm worried about. The starts, the Kings have consistently, with the exception of one game in this 6-game winning streak have come out and started the first quarters really well. Now, the third quarters at times have been a problem. In fact, I would say more times than not, the third quarter has been a problem, but they have dominated the fourth, absolutely dominated it. So I want to see Fox mix into what they've been doing. I don't want it to be De'Aaron Fox basketball and the rest of the guys not touching the ball. That's all I'm saying. I'm not ready to go there yet. Come on. It's De'Aaron freaking Fox. I don't think he's going to screw things up. No way. See, yeah, you guys are all on the same page. Ryan, do you ease Fox back in? I think you do. I really do. You're not going to send De'Aaron out tonight playing 40 minutes. I think unless he's cooking, unless there's just no answer for him, or what the way the Bulls are playing him for whatever reason is opening everybody else up. But yeah, I do think that you definitely try to ease him in. I doubt they'll have a minutes restriction, though. He hasn't been out that long. Again, this whole thing with him has been a pain tolerance thing. Pain tolerance. Can he handle that? Because that is a painful injury. And that's not an injury that you can really shoot up. That's a bone bruise. That's deep tissue. You're going to feel that. Even if you shoot that up, by the way, and the discomfort's not there, the pressure still is. There's pressure. I'm not talking about pressure in a sense of, oh, you got to make that shot. There is literal pressure on that part of your body from the swelling. So you feel heavy on that side. So I think Doug and the trainers need to be completely tuned into what De'Aaron's doing. Also, the big tell for me is going to be, how does De'Aaron look not in his first spurt on the floor, but how about the second spurt when he sits for a little bit? That's going to be the key. Can you keep that thing warm? Hope they keep giving Ellis minutes. They definitely will. Keon has been a key to what the Kings have been doing. Devin Carter could be like Colby White or Derek White. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? It's too soon to say. I would say this: Kobe, his offense as a rookie was there right away. And it's not that Devin's isn't, but you can tell the offense, at least in my opinion, is going to be a little bit of a more work in progress for the Kings. But this is the man of the hour, Domantas Sabonis. Can he keep it going again for this team? He has been the consistent in all this down low. He has had I'm going to challenge you to go back and find 2 better back-to-back games that Domantas Sabonis has had in his Sacramento tenure, between the Miami game and the game in Boston. The way he played Bam, the way that he played the rebounds. Are you freaking kidding me? So let him work. And a big reason for that is you don't have Domas on the perimeter as much. You have Domas where he belongs, which is down low. Now, when you bring him out on the perimeter, you do that because you want to pull the other big man out, which opens things up for Malik Monk, which opens up the pick and roll. There's a spacing element. It also gets Domas some of those 3 looks, which I definitely want to still see. I want Domas at this point shooting at least 5 3-pointers a game. At least. So again, we're getting you ready for the Kings and the Bulls. Early start to this one. Many of you, as I saw, are multitasking. I am as well. The Bills up 21-7 right now. Third quarter, 3:06 left. They have taken control for now of that game. By the way, Mike Vrabel named as the new head coach of the Patriots. No big surprise with that one. Sabonis 40+ from 3. He is. Yep. Keon Ellis too. Also shooting the 3 ball extremely well. Let's see her low. I've got a feeling the post game chat here will be fire. Let's hope so. I sure as hell hope so. It was fire the other day. I mean, do you think Brian Windhorst, do you guys remember this? This was before last game. What kind of holes are they going to punch in the Kings' last performance?
But anyway, Mike Brown got fired. Doug Christie took over, and they have won 5 games in a row. They had a double overtime win over the Heat, which they made a big comeback in. It was a really bad loss for the Heat on Monday night. Now, let me just go over these 5 wins. There are some asterisks.
I was going to say that
Okay.
there are some interesting things here.
They beat Dallas without Luka.
And Kyrie.
Oh, Kyrie was out for that game too? Okay.
Correct.
So that one
Okay.
was kind of a rest night.
All right. That was their first one. They beat Philly. Paul George played great in that game, but Embiid did not play in that game. They beat Memphis without Ja.
No, Embiid did play, but they had a crazy comeback at the end after being down the entire game.
Oh, he did play. Well, see,
Yes, but they scored
right.
15 straight to win the game after being down virtually the whole game.
They blasted the Warriors without Steph.
I believe he played in the game, but it was
wow.
the second night of a back-to-back for Golden State. They played.
I got all this wrong.
Yeah, you did get all that wrong. Come on, Brian. Do better, Brian Windhorst.
I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now?
Get the concept. Come on, Brian. Don't be an idiot, as Charlie Sheen says.
Shut up. Stop. Move forward.
Come on, Brian. Shut up and move forward. Tim. Okay, Tim. Let's separate these two things because I put this, or I said it on the post-game show last game. Having De'Aaron Fox and not having De'Aaron Fox. We're talking about not the player and what he brings to the table, his numbers. Yes, he shoots 48%. He averages 26. Okay, what we're talking about is the ball continuing to move consistently. Because if you don't think that there isn't a correlation, double negative, excuse me. If you think there's no correlation between the ball movement and Keegan Murray starting to shoot it better, Trey Lyles shooting it better, Keon Ellis shooting it better, and so on and so forth, you're wrong. That was missing early in the season. So that's all that I am saying. The ball movement is imperative. In fact, when the Kings slowed down in the third quarter, why was that, Tim? It was because of DeRozan. He took some bad shots. I would have been harping on that. I did harp on that a little bit in the post-game show, even though they won the game. He only got to the free throw line 5 times. What I'm saying is the two of them, Fox and DeRozan, they're going to have to figure that out. But what I do know is regardless, the ball still has to move and move quick because it's not just everybody touching the ball. It's making the defense. It's making the defense work on both ends. There is a huge component to that. The defense has not always had to work on both ends against the Kings. Rarely this season while they were losing. The Kings were actually one of the most predictable offenses in the NBA. A 6-year-old could have drawn up a game plan on how to draw or how to stop the Kings offensively. Now it's a little bit different because you have to worry and respect everybody else. I like Carter at point. I do not like Carter at point. I don't. When they put some pressure on him, he was trying to get rid of the ball really quick. I don't mind him bringing it up here and there, but he is not a point guard, and he has said it himself. There's a long ways to go when it comes to that. But his defense, I don't care where he is at. Point guard, shooting guard. He can guard, I will say it right now, he can guard 1 through 4 in the NBA. And when you talk about guys being able to guard multiple positions, it's not like you can start Devin Carter at 4. What I'm saying is in switch scenarios, they call them reds. In red scenarios, he can switch on to a 4 and be effective on the perimeter. Call it now. Vucevic is going to make Domas guard him at the 3-point line because he can shoot too. I wonder how the Kings adjust to this or vice versa. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, where it is a big deal, Abraham, and it's a good point, and I think this is where Devin Carter and Keon Ellis play so much in to this game plan, is one of the things that has been, quote unquote, the simplicity, the simple things for the Kings has been the way that they are denying on the perimeters. They were not doing that before. And if you don't know what denying means, that means if your man doesn't have the ball and he is running up trying to get the ball from somebody. So if Vooch is out at the top of the key and let's see, whoever, Kobe's not playing tonight. But let's say Zach LaVine is trying to come get the ball. Whoever's guarding Zach LaVine, they're denying him like this. They got their hand like that. I'm going to go this way so you can see. They've got a hand like this, and they're denying. They're stopping that pass from coming in. And so Keon's great at that. Let's see. Devin, excellent at that. Monk can do it a little bit, but that's those things where you can help hide DeMar to a degree. And you know who thrives, actually, when the Kings play that way? It's De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is the one that is playing that center field position and getting those steals. So the Kings they look to make it 7 straight today in Chicago. I know a lot of us going back and forth between the two games. Looking forward to having you all here. Dennis, let's effing go. The arc is beautiful. It is high. That is a high arc on Devin's shot for sure. One of those threes he shot in Boston literally went out of my TV screen because it was so high. Yeah, Devin talked about it. It's having a soft touch. He thinks it gives the ball a better chance to go in. You know, what worries me about that, and he's going to know, the coaches will work with him, but when Devin gets to a point where he's playing 30, 35 minutes a game, then there's so much legs in that shot. Can he maintain his legs when he starts to get that type of run? Because that is a lot of legs putting that up there. Come on. Really, Nate? Come on, Nate. Damn! Do better, Nate. Seriously, Nate? I get it. You're probably a clone, but come on, Nate. Do better. Keegan making shots or Herder making shots is money on their own. Problem, can't blame it on Fox. Herder still can't make his shot. When did I say Kevin Herder? Tim, you're just looking for examples of players who are not making shots. If you look at one dude who is kind of getting his minutes reduced without Fox, it's Kevin Herder, and it's Devin Carter starting to take those minutes. What I'm saying is that starting 5 is playing like 1. 5 is playing like 1. Got to keep it going. What's up, Frank? Hope you're having a good day. Welcome in. I can acknowledge that.
Acknowledge me.
So let's go back, listen to a little bit more Doug Christie, and then we'll talk about some of the game plan that I think the Bulls or the Kings are going to look to utilize against the Bulls. Here's Doug Christie again.
Together.
Keon rode a kind of roller coaster of minutes this year. He's obviously had a much bigger role these last few weeks. How that moment in particular, what does it say about him? The fact that like a lot of guys in his situation would be like, hold on, I got this role now. I'm not letting it go.
Yeah. He's a team player, man. I mean, he's team first, whatever the team needs. If we need him to shoot, he shoots. If we need him to rebound, he rebounds. If we need him to try to guard Jaylen Brown, he's guarding him. If it's Tatum, it's him. If it's Pritchard or Drew Holiday, it doesn't matter. Like, he does whatever you need. And for a coach, it's a huge thing because you can kind of fit him in wherever. He doesn't play with his ego that way. He plays for his teammates, and he's a joy to coach and a joy to be around.
I think it was first quarter as a timeout. He was coming to the bench, and you went out and you kind of coached him up a little bit, gave him a pat on the way out. What were you telling him in those moments, and how were you coaching him up through these games?
Just trying to, like, I've stuck the best players in the world in the history of this game, and that happens. Like, guys are going to get the best of you. Like, I believe in you. Don't foul. There are different ways that we want to cover him, so go to a second way. Like, use your toolbox too and communicate to your teammates. And that's what he started to do. It's like, listen, guys will attack certain matchups when they think that they have something. And these guys are so good. Like, Jaylen is so good that if he gets it going, it's really not a lot that you can do. But to watch Keon fight, and I just wanted to support him in that moment and let him know that, like, I got your back, man. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep on doing it, and we'll be there for you.
Good stuff there. I love Doug's message. Guys are buying it as well. With all due respect, and I know this is going to be argumentative, Good Citizen. I like the screen name, by the way. Good Citizen. You must be getting sample sizes, because I don't just argue with people. If you watch the King's Court, it's really a collaboration with this community. and I talk a lot about game plans. In fact, go back and watch last episode of the Kings Court. I outlined how the Kings could beat Boston, and it was exactly right. It's exactly how they beat Boston. So I appreciate the feedback, always open to feedback, but it's not just arguing. And that's what, by the way, that's what these shows are about. It's about debate, good, clean fun, good, clean debate, and enjoying this basketball team. So appreciate the feedback. Keep it coming. All right. So you're looking at what the Bulls do. What do the Bulls do well? Excuse me. Is this the Bulls? Yes, it is. What do the Bulls do well? What do they not do well? One of the things that jumps off the page to me is the three-point shooting. So you're going to have a very similar game plan to what the Kings had against Boston. Second in the NBA and made three-pointers, second in the NBA in three-point attempts at 43.8. Right? I said it's going to be argued. Look, Adam, it's what I used to do for a living before I did this. So deal with it, okay? Okay, Adam. Adamus. Anyways, three-point shooting going to be massive in this one. So 3-point attempts, second in the league, fifth in 3-point percentage. So I think you're going to see a lot of face guarding like you saw with Steph Curry. That's going to be the game plan around Zach LaVine. You can't let Zach LaVine going. Now, get him going. Now, the one thing that the Kings did against Steph Curry that they can't do is you can't have the 4-point plays. You can't let Chicago get those big plays that say, all right, we could do this. We could beat this team. You got to come out. Again, we talked about the physicality right off the bat. You got to play fast. You got to play physical. Let Doug handle the refs. I think Sabonis does have a little bit of an advantage inside today. And I also think Trey Lyles, you're going to look at somebody that could have a big game off the bench today. It's Trey Lyles. And it's especially with the 3-ball in transition. This feels like a game where transition is a place where the Kings could absolutely thrive. Let's look at the second page of what they do as well. You'll notice the rebounding. They are the number one team in defensive rebounding. I talked about the stats over the last 6 games. The Kings right now in the NBA are number one in defensive rating percentage, 77.3%, meaning 77.3% of the time when the ball goes up, the Kings get the rebound when they're on defense. That's huge. In fact, overall rebounding in the last 6 games, the Kings are first also in the NBA. So can the Kings box out? Can they find their man and not give up second opportunities? Assist. The Bulls are number 4. Great opportunity for the Kings to get in those passing lanes, to deny deflections. Kevin Huerter, although he did not score much, he did an excellent job of getting in passing lanes, deflecting. He had 3 steals last game. And you look at points for this Chicago team. They're 4th in the NBA. You can discourage Chicago. Let me say that again. You can discourage them. You can get Chicago to quit. If they don't see the ball going through the net, especially from beyond the arc, that is when the Kings can put this thing out of reach. That is when the Kings can go on a run. It's stacking stops and converting during those stops. I think there is a lot of things there. Now, Chicago, by the way, they're the worst team in the NBA. If you look at this, see that 30 under 3-point attempts, or excuse me, the 30 under 2-point attempts right there. They're the worst team in the league at guarding the mid-range. So the Kings have to get to the paint and either finish or kick. If the Kings do those things, I think the Kings will win this game. They cannot, though. They cannot fall in love with the 3-ball. They can't do it. The 3-ball, I want it to go in. It's got to go in for this team to win the basketball game. But they are, Chicago, 4th worst in the NBA at 3-point attempts. They give up a lot of them. So the Kings cannot fall in love with the 3. And the last thing I'm going to say, the zone defense. I bet at some point Billy Donovan's going to throw some zone defense at this Kings team, especially if they are getting out in transition, especially if the ball's humming like it has been over the past 6 games. Should that be the case, the Kings have to get the ball to the middle of the zone. Get the ball to the middle of the zone, break it that way, either get Domas or get DeMar DeRozan in the middle. You either take that shot because it will be there, or you get it to the short corner. You can't overshare in this game. Domas did it. He's done it a few times over this past 6-game span, but he did it a couple times in Boston. So I think you've got to take Levine out of the game, which is more than feasible. If you can do it to Steph Curry, you can do it to Levine. You know the formula, but the zone defense, you got to identify it, and Doug Christie's got to be able to adjust to it if the guys are not doing what they should be in terms of a zone offense. So that's what I see in this one. What do you all see in this one? Again, if you're just joining us, De'Aaron Fox is going to be playing today. Starting lineups probably have been released. I have not checked, though, so we'll take a double look at that in a few minutes. Let's listen to Doug Christie a few more times after the last game in Boston.
What made you want to give him the role that he's gotten recently, and what is he doing really well defensively at this point, and what are kind of the nuances that get to like that level?
For me, for Keon, it's more about he can plug so many different holes. He can guard from your point guard to your small forward, and sometimes even your power forward. It just depends. Then his ability to do things you can't teach. He has a really good sense of the game. He has a really good understanding of time and space. He closes gaps, and he shoots the ball at a high level. So all those things put together. Excuse me.
I think you get asked a version of this question a lot, particularly during the winning streak. But what is it? What is it that you can carry over from the energy level of the shift to you being inserted into your position that you guys can carry long term?
I think it's more than anything, it's the belief. I think that they begin to believe in themselves, and that goes past coaching. Now it's something that they own, and when they walk onto the court, when they are in any arena, they believe that they have an opportunity to win. Ball falls sometimes it doesn't, but the one thing that we are going to do is we are going to compete at a high level, and if we get beat, we shake their hand and we move on.
Coach, it's as simple as just on a streak like this, that just the energy level seems to kind of follow this team. Coming off a double overtime, win over was a few days ago, obviously on Monday, had some time to recover. But they were hustling to loose balls at the edge. I rebounded the good Celtics team. Outscoring them in the paint. Just seemed like they were all over the court, coming off a big, high-intensity win. What's to say about their energy level to be able to carry that through this win streak?
Yeah, it's tough because sometimes you get letdowns in different things, and the seasons are monstrous, man. And then we travel to the East Coast. You're playing the world champs. Like, they are high level basketball team. But the one thing, and we're without one of our guys, and the one thing that you do is that you make sure that you control what you can control. And that's our energy. That's the way we approach the game. And the next game will be another test, because a team that doesn't have as many wins, how do you approach it? How do you go about it? And those are the things that I really talk to them about, and they've bought in, and I love them for that.
So that was Doug Christie after last game. To Flores' question, I've got an update on the starting lineup for you as well. When will Doug get his credit as head coach? I'm giving him his credit. I'm not sure about the national media. Look, Mike Brown could have run off 6, and he's not going to get credit for that. I think, you've got to probably look at the Houston game. If the Kings continue this stretch, or let's say they go 2-1 on this road trip, and then they roll home and they get their first TNT game of the season, that's probably where you're going to start hearing it. You're going to get some of it from the TNT crew. You'll have Shaq that will give some insight against playing against Doug. Obviously, part of that 2002, 2001, 2000 rivalry with them. There's no doubt that Doug's approach with the energy and with what he's asking has changed things. I think people are skeptical of the X's and the O's. I am a little skeptical of the X's and the O's, and I would be skeptical of any interim coach. I don't think there's been many opportunities. And you could point to the Miami game, actually. I think Miami was a good opportunity in overtime, but we had a good example and we had a bad example. The good example was overtime. What the Kings drew up. They targeted Hockey Jaimes. They targeted Tyler Hero, both who had played the fourth quarter on. And those guys were gassed, and it worked. Hawkeyes missed 2 free throws at the end of regulation. Now, a bad example of adjusting during that game was the zone offense. It was awful. They did not adjust to that zone, and that's why you've seen some zone defense. In fact, Boston played a little bit last game. They quickly got out of it, though. So I think the national media is going to want to see a bigger sample size before he gets his flowers. But the communication, the fact that these guys are willing to do what he is asking with the non-negotiables, and because it is so simple and straightforward with the non-negotiables, which is hustle, which is energy, I think that's big. And to a degree, you've heard it at the press conferences. You've heard it also from players. Malik Monk talked about the communication difference. I don't think these guys are looking over their shoulder as much. I don't think what they're being asked to do, I don't think they feel it's unreasonable. Under Mike Brown, towards the end of his tenure here, I think there were some things that the guys were like, come on. You know, Mike would always say 48 minutes, and then Mike checked himself and he said as close to 48 minutes. And then Mike went to, well, somehow, some way, we can't make mistakes. It's got to be possession after possession times 26. You get what I'm saying? And with Doug, it's just effort. It's hustle. Those are the non-negotiables. Those are all things these guys can do. And I think that makes a big difference, especially with a team that, for the most part, has been together for 3 years. So it's a good question. Look, I really like. Yeah, I'm sorry. I haven't had enough coffee. Jaime Jaquez. I'm sorry. Look, admittedly, it's an early game for all of us. So you got me there. Jaime Jaquez. My bad. Welcome back in. So good question there. I think today is going to be a fun one. Give me your predictions. John saying 117, 102. Beam team. Yes, indeed. Tim Ryan, do you think they should sit one of Fox, DeRozan, and Monk on the bench so they could get Ellis in? So, by the way, I didn't tell you, you are going back to the regular starting lineup today. It is Foxy, Monk, DeRozan, Keegan, and Sabonis. That being said, I would expect that Keon Ellis is going to play just as many minutes as he has been. No, I don't think that you should sit one of them at this point. If you were looking to change the starting lineup, it's probably DeRozan. If it got to that, DeRozan's the guy that I would look to have come off the bench. Really quick, too, to Flores's point, I think it's important, one adjustment that we haven't pointed out that goes back to Doug's tenure when he started as the coach, the interim head coach. He began starting Keon Ellis. He went small right off the bat. To me, that should be a move right off the bat that should be applauded. That is a move that should be getting a ton more respect, and that move in its own should be enough to at least acknowledge Doug, because that was a major adjustment. Behind Domantas Sabonis, who is a 4.2 net rating on the season, it's either 4.2 or 4.3. His individual net rating, Keon Ellis is second behind him at 3.8. So Keon might not be scoring 30 points a night, but he's doing all of the things that don't show up on a stat sheet. And in a lot of ways, when Doug Christie looks in the mirror, he's got to see some Keon Ellis in the mirror. He sees Keon looking back at him and vice versa. Their games are so similar. Grant put it very well on the post-game show after the Celtics game, saying that, Doug might not always have had a great game, but every time you hit the floor, you knew what you were going to get. And so the fact that Doug realized that maybe that missing ingredient between this team being a few games under 500 and a few games over 500 was Keon Ellis. In fact, when Doug started Keon against Memphis, Memphis decided to pull Edey out of the starting lineup. So the fact that Doug said, I'm going to do what's best for our team, and you guys can adjust to it, that's a big move. That's something Mike Brown never did for the most part. Mike Brown never started Malik Monk when De'Aaron Fox had been hurt. So it's an interesting talk. But yeah, I think Doug should start getting it. Baby Cakes, no excuse about the X's and the O's. DC has assistant coaches. Very true. Assistant coaches who were skipped over for this job. And much credit to Jay Triano, much credit to Luke Laux. Again, everything in the world pointed to things that could divide this team after Mike Brown was fired. But on the flip side, they've come together. Very cool. Tim wraps it up. Ryan, most of us questioning why Mike Brown was not playing Ellis. In fact, it was Mike Brown that played and developed Ellis last year. It's one of the big questions on why Mike Brown sat Ellis. So, Tim, I can tell you this really quick, and we got to get out because the game's getting ready to start. Keon Ellis did not have a good preseason. I sat up here and I talked about it. So it was a little bit of a surprise that Kevin Huerter got the start right off the bat. Mike Brown believes that you don't lose your job by injury. But Keon, from that point on, was somewhat inconsistent. And Mike Brown was trying to get this message across to the team that you got to hold everybody accountable. You got to hold your teammates accountable. Well, guess what? The bottom line is Mike Brown, you can't hold Fox accountable. You can't sit his ass on the bench. You can't do it to Sabonis. You can't do it to DeRozan. You know who you could do it to? Keon Ellis. And so I think Keon Ellis's mistakes at times were a little bit amplified. I think Mike made a little bit of an example out of Keon. And I think that bothered some of the guys in the locker room. And I've heard chatter about that. So look, he's exactly what you said. He's a two-way guy that got elevated and developed not just by Mike Brown, but also the Stockton staff. You got to give credit to the Stockton staff as well. Lindsey Harding, Gabriel Harris, Quentin Crawford, the new coach right now. You have to credit them as well. It was a collaborative thing between the two systems, because if you don't know, Stockton is running the exact same stuff that the Kings are running. I was sitting courtside last night watching them play. They give up two. Guess what? The ball's already flying up the court. They're doing the same things. And so that dates back to last year as well. And so there's good to it and there's bad to it. The fact that this young man has grown into what he's grown into, where he's guarding at times 3s, 4s, that's a testament to its own. So you got to kind of take a step back and remember where the kid came from too. So anyways, long story short, we have got a big game today. The Kings look to make it 7 in a row against the Bulls. De'Aaron Fox back in this one. Kings favored by 5.5. DeRozan, Fox, Monk, Sabonis, and Keegan Murray, your starting lineup. My guess is your first two off the bench are going to be Devin Carter and Keon Ellis, then Trey Lyles, and maybe some Kevin Huerter. We will see. Also, great point about Alex Len. Great point at Alex Len. Doug's not going to him right now. Doug went small all of last game. He never went to Len last game, and he could have against Porzingis. So there's another one, Flores, about Doug getting his flowers. So anyways, hey, love y'all. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, halftime. Jerry's going to be with me. We'll keep you updated on the football games as well. My beam is charged. My beam's charged, y'all. We don't have to worry about it. So hopefully we can light the beam later today. But before that, Jerry Reynolds joins us at the intermission. Make sure You come back, enjoy the first half. By the way, I'll give you your football update as we leave. The Bills dominating the Broncos 28-7, 8:48 left in that one. Go Kings, light the damn beam. Still stay away from Levine. Face guard the hell out of Levine today. We'll see you at the halftime. So long.